draft day trades of our own. We, the management, made some decisions, made some phone calls. We traded Paul Garral and some cash considerations to Boomer Bust for Tate Sigworth and a producer to be named later. Tate, so glad to have you on. So great to have you here, the Boomer Bust draft expert and local Cleveland Browns fan. Thanks for coming on and filling in.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. Always down to talk shop, talk drafts, and I'm excited to hear the fans' comments on how they think the draft went. I obviously have my own thoughts, my own grades and such. I'm down to talk whatever. Whoever's out there, I'm down.
Well, let's start with this. Opening thoughts before we get to the great picks, the not so great picks. Again, you're a Cleveland Browns fan. How did your hometown Brownies do in the draft? How do you think?
Really, really well. And that's not just me being a homer. Like there was like somebody compiled all of the experts' analysis of all the different teams and their grades of each team. And there was only one of like 15 guys that gave the Browns a grade below an A. And that was Mel Kiper, who's fine. We can have our own Mel Kiper takes. But yeah, so they crushed it. Loved Greg Newsome in the first round. Trading up for Jock, who fell all the way to 52. The Notre Dame linebacker was awesome. Anthony Schwartz adding a speed wide receiver was the perfect mix for the positional group. And then they added some more depth and created some really good competitions for training camp. And I'm excited, very, very excited. Trust the front office for the first time in a very long time.
Let's talk about Owusu Koromoa for a second. Reports came out today that he slipped a lot because of an apparent heart issue he had. The Browns team doctors went over it. Apparently he's going to be okay. But 32 NFL teams, really, including the Browns in that first round, had some concerns. He slips to 52. What, if anything, is there to read into here?
Nothing. If it's not going to be an issue, Montez Sweat, kind of a similar issue, really talented player, physical freak a couple years ago, had a heart issue, and it's been a non-factor for Washington. So you have to hope that what's going on with Jock is the same deal. It won't be an issue. Right. And at 52, for a guy that a lot of people had a first-round talent, top 20 grade on, that's great value.
Great value. Talking about my Patriots a little bit. I'll flip the question on you, even though I'm talking about the Patriots. They pick Mac Jones, 15th overall. I don't think he's going to start right away over Cam Newton, but is he the guy for the future in New England?
Mac Jones,
that was not a confident start to the question.
I know. Like back in the fall when we first started doing mock drafts and stuff, and it was like, oh, unathletic white quarterback, Mac Jones. Oh, yeah, we'll just go to the Patriots, Tom Brady. Right. Obviously, I don't think he'll be the same player, but I think Mac Jones is going to have a very long career in this league. I think he's going to do some very good things. He'll be obviously very talented. Throws the ball very well, pretty accurate, very accurate actually. So yeah, won't start right away, but I think would be able to start right away if Cam goes down with an injury or if they just want to change the scenery.
Patriots go back-to-back Alabama guys. They get Christian Barmore in the second round. They lose Adam Butler in free agency. So that's a big add for them, a guy who can come in and start on the interior right away. We got our first fan on the fan line. It's Ethan Sorcher. First time for him. Local Giants fan, Ethan Sorcher, come on the fan line. Sure, he's got a lot to say. His Giants trading down from 11 to 20. Very un-Gettleman-esque, but you still got to be pretty happy overall.
Hey, I told you, well, first I wanted to beat everyone on the fan line and give my Giants takes before Matan got on here. So, save my best takes for first. So I was very pleased with that. I think I came on last week and I said, I didn't care who we picked. All I wanted was a trade down because I think being an 11, you're at a sweet spot. I realistically did not think that, if let's say Smith was there at 11, I think the Giants would have taken him. But I didn't really see that as a likelihood of happening because I just knew you had so many other teams who were going to take receivers. You had teams who were going to trade up as Philadelphia to take receivers. So I'm happy that we traded down. We got picks for next year. And, people think that Tony was like a reach at 20. But I kind of don't agree with that. I think, if he would have probably gone in the late 20s or Jacksonville would have taken him at 25 apparently. So if you like the guy, if you think he's your guy, take him at 20. Don't read into what everyone thinks. And he adds another dynamic to the offense. So, I'm thrilled with that. We got the picks for next year, which I wanted, and can't complain.
Yeah, I have Kadarius Toney as 18 on my big board, so I don't think it was a reach at all. For reference, I have 266 guys on my big board. So 18, I don't think that's a reach. He's an awesome weapon. And yes, Jacksonville was going to take him at 25. I do think that if Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle was there at 11, you would have taken one of them, but they both were gone. So might as well trade down, gets a little more draft capital, and you still get an awesome weapon, Kadarius Toney.
We talked last week with your Giants that another pick you thought about you may want to take in the first round is another offensive lineman to maybe solidify that offensive line. With Barkley coming off of injury, with a young quarterback, they ultimately go receiver and not maybe reach on an offensive lineman like Tevin Jenkins or try to get another offensive line mid-first round. You're good with this pick at wide receiver?
Well, so when you talk about offensive line, if we want to take an offensive lineman and they were not clear, they were not comfortable with the current set they have, we would have stayed at 11 and taken Slater. I think that's very clear. He was arguably one of the top 2 offensive linemen in the draft. When we traded back, they had a chance to take, what's that guy's name, Darrison or from Virginia Tech. Right, exactly. And we said no to him. And look, I think for the Giants offensive line, the position they're missing is a guard, right? I don't really see, besides the guy who went to the Jets, who I'm just blanking his name, AVT, who I like to make the joke. I saw on Twitter, AVTS for the Jets there.
Nice.
But, he was the only person you could see in the first round. If you were to plug a guard, take in the first round there. I don't know if there was a lot of other talent in the first round for guards. So I think receiver is okay position. I was surprised they didn't address offensive line in the second round or third round. But look, they have more intel on who they're feeling comfortable with. So you got to put the faith in the general manager and the coaching staff to say, we believe these pieces. I do think the second round pick was a steal. Ojulari was a great pass rusher in the second round. So look, they were looking for best available at the time. And in that case, that works. I will say, though.
I'll pick on something you said and put it on Tate. Concerned that the Giants don't prioritize offensive line in this draft?
A little bit. 6 picks, is it? And not one of them were an offensive lineman. That offensive line is meh. There's a lot of replaceable players on it. You probably are correct that interior maybe is the position to upgrade. And you just didn't draft any of them. I think it is a question mark on the front office. Obviously, you added 2 edges, 2 cornerbacks. Like you addressed some needs, but you just didn't address interior, which I think would be a position I would have liked to see the Giants address.
Right, and I think honestly, what's going to happen is you're looking at who are the free agents that are still available come later on the offseason, and you look at that right guard position. That could be an area of weakness because we started Lemieux and Hernandez at left guard, and we kind of went to Lemieux. Hernandez is supposed to start at the right guard for the first time, but if he can't get the job done, you look Trey Turner is sitting there in the free agency. Dave Gettleman drafted him. It wouldn't be a shock to see them sign him. They have Matt Pert or Nate Solder for right tackle, and Andrew Thomas. They really put a lot of faith in make the jump at left tackle. And Nate Gates had a great season at center. So I think there's more optimism here for the first time that they think they're doing the right thing. And look, if they're wrong, they have picks next year to figure it out. But I think the faith was just get the pieces around Daniel Jones this offseason.
One more question before we let you go. Looking on as a Giants fan, is there another team in the NFC East you saw this draft and you're like, damn, they added a lot of good pieces. They're going to be much better next year. They're going to contend for the NFC East. What NFC East team do you think grew the most this draft that can threaten the Giants?
Off the top of my head, I don't think any of the teams really grew that much. I think some of them had some solid picks, but I don't really see an overall impact. Look, Philadelphia, Smith is a great receiver, but he's now they're arguably their best receiver they have on the roster. A rookie is the best receiver. Dallas, they revamped their linebacking core. They got Micah Parsons, but was linebacker a need? They already had great players there. So they prioritized the defense and building depth there because that's what it sucked. The offense is still dynamic, but the offensive line's a question. A lot of injuries. They didn't really address that at all. And Washington, look, they added some great pieces. I like Brown from North Carolina, receiver they drafted. I think they got a good tackle in the second round. And the linebacker is a fast rising guy up the boards recently, so I don't really know a whole lot about him. But look, at the end of the day, they still don't have a quarterback beyond Fitzpatrick. So if he can't get the job done, is Washington a threat? So I think all NFC East teams, this is why it's the NFC least. No one stands out on top of each other. Everyone just kind of did their own work, and here we are. So I don't really think anyone is to rising above anyone at the moment.
Your thoughts on the NFC East draft?
I think Philly and Washington had a better draft than the Giants. A lot of depth on day 3 for both of them. Washington got a steal on Samuel Cosme at 51, in my opinion. Benjamin St. Just and Diami Brown, like you mentioned. And the Eagles, man, the day 3 talent they added, obviously the first couple picks, Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, and Milton Williams, they have their own question marks. Smith's size, Landon Dickerson's injury history, and Milton Williams' consistency. But the day 3 talent that the Eagles added, really impressive.
The only thing I say about Philadelphia is that, they had a lot of need. They have a lot of needs, right? So you're looking at who's going to start opposite Darius Slay in that division. I think cornerback is a pressing need in this division now because you're going against Dallas, who has, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper, Gallup. You have Washington, who has McLaurin. You have Samuel and some other weapons. And the Giants have Galladay and company. They only have Darius Slay there. That's it. So that for Philadelphia, and I think they kind of got screwed a little bit when the 2 top corners went up before them. But I think you're looking at saying, why did they wait till round 4 to address the secondary? I would have thought they would have addressed it earlier because it's a pressing need. But look, you're right. If Dickerson and his health stands out, that's a great pick in round 2. But again, it's the question marks there. And this was a draft full of question marks of the health concerns. So it's hard to say, you might be right. Those talent that Washington got on the 2nd and 3rd day, same in Philadelphia, could be great. But it's just a lot of unknown with the questions of injuries at this point, too.
Yeah, Zach McPherson had a ridiculous pro day, Texas Tech corner that the Eagles drafted in the 4th round. But is he an answer?
Can he start? No. Can he start? That's the question.
He remain to be seen, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. Great stuff, Ethan. Thanks so much for coming on the fan line. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree a lot of were the needs addressed a lot by the Eagles. Yeah. Thought about, okay, they traded away Carson Wentz. They're going to go with Jalen Hurts as their starting quarterback. Are they going to draft one of these second-tier quarterbacks to maybe have someone come in and compete? Is that a question? The defensive backs also. Jaden Mills, of course, leaves for the Patriots. If Devontae Smith is their Heisman Trophy winner, what are you going to do? Pass over him? But
it's tough. J.C. Horn and Pat Surtain going 8-9 really screwed over Philly and Dallas, in my opinion. I didn't really expect the Broncos. They went out in free agency and signed, I think, Kyle Fuller and Ronald Darby.
Yeah.
Bradley Roby, one of them. I always get the 2 confused, excuse me. So they spent money in free agency on corner, and then they still draft corner at 9. And the Panthers going with J.C. Horn, is he really a scheme fit? Are they changing the scheme? The signs would point to yes, maybe in a change of scheme, but also maybe like a little bit of reach. Do they have bigger needs? Rashawn Slater seemed to be a good fit for them. They got Philly and Dallas got really screwed by the run on corners early in the top 10, or I guess late in the top 10, but before they picked.
I agree. Giants did the best they could. I think they did, especially with the trading down. They took the best guys there at those spots. Let's stay in the East, take it to the AFC. We got Jonah coming up next on the fan line talking Pats. Jonah, 2-3 months ago on this live stream, do you feel Mac Jones going to 50 to the Patriots? I said, I don't really know. He asked me the same question in our last live stream. I still said, I don't really know. He is here to rub it in my face and more. Jonah, thanks so much for coming on the fan line.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to make myself clear. Fields was definitely my top option, but Jones I was happy with as a plan B. So going actually back to the quarterbacks, my question is, how come Fields and Jones, who had really good seasons, slid down the boards versus like Trey Lance, who didn't really play a full season?
Yeah, Trey Lance didn't play a full season. He played 1 game. He threw his first interception, the big 2019 season that got Trey Lance on the map. I know, you undrafted free agent. He threw 28 touchdowns and no interceptions, came out this year, had just a fine game. Justin Fields thing, processing speed. Can he really go through his reads quickly, timely, and process it, process the play, unfolding play? Right. A lot of people say no. I disagree. I think he has the talents and put on tape many times throwing to his second or later read. There are people that'll say, oh, we only threw to his second read 1 time. I don't think that's true at all. And then Mac Jones, his big discount is that he's unathletic and also was playing on Alabama and was throwing to wide open receivers a lot of the time. Obviously, there are many times he made big time throws, is extremely accurate. I think he had like a 78% completion percentage this year, which is just ridiculous. But yeah, those are the 2 dockets for him. Trey Lance is a big upside guy. So is Justin Fields, in my opinion, but they're just taking the upside with Zach Wilson and Trey Lance over the other 2.
Yeah. No, I totally agree on a lot of those points. I was a bit surprised based on like how their season went overall. And kind of moving on with the Patriots, like their approach this year versus, and same kind of this goes with free agency also. Do you think Nick Caserio was a factor in their decision making over the years? Because it feels like they had a much different approach since he left.
Yeah, I mean, the team is in much different state than when he was there, when he started. I mean, I don't know how many years Nick Caserio has been with the New England Patriots and coming into an offseason where they went 7-9. So a lot has to change there. They really had a lot of cap space. They did a lot of retooling. I think that's part of it. I don't know how much it is versus free agency versus the draft versus contract restructuring. I think there's a lot of new going on with the Patriots, regardless of who's in that player personnel role, that guided some unconventional Patriots decision-making outside of Caserio being there or not, is what I would say.
All right. Well, that's it. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it, Jonah. Thanks so much. The U, baby.
Yep.
The U. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm happy with the Patriots free agency spending.
It's a new strategy for the Pats, going out spending big money. They had a good draft. Christian Barmore in the second round was a steal. He's like 14 on my board and went 38. And then Ronnie Perkins with the Brady compensatory pick, stud, just a stud.
Well, we talked a little bit about him pre-production. He's a guy who had some trouble off the field, played really well for Oklahoma when they made their playoff games. He still slips to 3.
Yeah.
That was one of your biggest slides in this draft, right?
It was one of them. I was a little lower of the 4 of us on the podcast, and I think the lowest on Ronnie Perkins. He fell because of, I guess, character concerns. For those who don't know, him and Ramondre Stevenson, who was the next pick for the Patriots after Ronnie Perkins, were both suspended by Oklahoma for a failed drug test before a bowl game in 2019. But Ronnie Perkins is a stud. 25% win rate in the SEC on pass rush is ridiculous. It's better than Azeez Ojulari, who also had this ridiculous year, big rise. Another guy who fell, he has a degenerative leg issue in his left leg, I believe.
Is that right?
Which is an ominous medical term, which is the reason he fell to the Giants in the second round. But Ronnie Perkins has speed, man. He's got great bend. I really like that pick. And at 96 is just ridiculous value.
Let's keep going on that a little bit. Adam Newman had a comment earlier in the show, just biggest draft steal. Obviously, Perkins in the third round. Is there anyone on day one who you thought was a quote-unquote steal in their spot?
The Lions, Penei Sewell. We don't like to throw the term generational around too much on the podcast just because it is a very lofty term.
Yeah.
And we haven't even seen these guys play a down of football in the NFL. But all of us agree that Penei Sewell is a generational offensive tackle. The way this guy moves in space at his size is ridiculous. His production in terms of sacks allowed is also ridiculous. And he's only 20 years old. He's going to be in this league for a very long time. And to get him at 7 for Detroit is just awesome. Dan Campbell's got to be ecstatic with that. Other first-round steals, I like Rashad Bateman a lot to the Ravens. Not really a steal because that's kind of, I guess, where people thought he would go at 27. But they ended up adding Tylan Wallace, who's another really good route runner, and moving Marquise Brown to the slot. I thought the Ravens did really well there. Christian Darrisaw to the Vikings. The Vikings were at 14, and all signs pointed to them taking Darrisaw or Elijah Vera Tucker, one of the two. And then they traded back to 23, and to still get their guy in Darrisaw at 23 after trading back, getting more draft capital was, I think, a really, really savvy move from their front office.
Yeah, let's do the inverse of that. Let's talk about some draft day, some bad picks. Either day 1, day 2. We had some questionable picks in the first round. We were watching the live stream during the draft. Not big on first round running backs. You guys made that clear with the Najee Harris pick and the Travis Etienne pick.
Yeah, it's for those who don't know, running backs have an extremely low positional value in terms of compared to other positions on the field, just because they are extremely replaceable. You can go out and get a guy for $200,000 to do a job that a guy you could pay $1 million or more dollars to. They do the same job. So first round running backs, I would say nearly always are gen bad. Unless your name is Christian McCaffrey. I would even say Saquon Barkley at 4 would maybe be too high. Top 10 pick, yes, at 4. I don't know, might be too much. Najee Harris to Pittsburgh, probably the worst pick of the draft.
Really, more so than Etienne, because you guys seemed your reaction.
Etienne was also horrible. They both were horrible in their own special way. Pittsburgh doesn't have an offensive line. You don't fix a bad run game by drafting a running back in the first round. That is like if I were to shoot you right now and just give you a Band-Aid. You weren't fixed. The wound is not fixed. They needed offensive line badly, and to spend a first-round pick on a running back is just not a way to fix your run game. Then Jacksonville goes out at 25 and drafts Travis Etienne. Of all the teams that in the NFL should understand why drafting running back in the first round is a stupid move, should be them. James Robinson was a stud last year for them. And if you upgrade the offensive line with the 25th overall pick, instead of drafting another running back, imagine what more James Robinson could do. He could play even better than he was last year if you give him an even better offensive line. But instead, you go out and draft Travis Etienne, and then Urban Meyer comes out and says, oh, yeah, he's going to be a third down running back. Why are we drafting third down running backs at 25 overall?
Right. That's
an undrafted free agent's job if we're doing that. Two horrendous picks. Alex Leatherwood at 17 to the Raiders. John Gruden.
I think the Boomer Bust guys had him in like the 90s or something.
Alex Leatherwood won the Outland Trophy for the best offensive lineman in football.
Right.
Alex Leatherwood is not the best offensive lineman in college football. Those two things are facts. He is not that good, went to the Senior Bowl, insisted on playing left tackle, even though he maybe should play guard, and got torched by dudes that are not speed rushers. Quincy Roche dusted him. Miami edge rusher who's not that fast, doesn't rely on speed, but still was torching Alex Leatherwood because he can't get out of his stance. Alex Leatherwood is bad. To 17 overall is horrible, horrendous. Mike Mayock and John Gruden are sipping too much of something. Peyton Turner to the Saints at 28, I thought was weird. I don't think edge was their biggest need, and I'm not a huge Peyton Turner guy. I know you look at him, and I think you just fall in love with the tools. He's 6'8", has flashes on tape that could be edge one, but those flashes aren't that consistent, and also he's playing at a lower competition level. I don't think he has great bend. I don't know if he's the best athlete. So at 28 overall, bit of a reach.
Here's what I'll say, coming back to something you said specifically about Jacksonville, right? You said you were very concerned about Urban Meyer coming into the draft, and this draft, what he's already done to disadvantage Trevor Lawrence coming into his first season.
Yeah.
I think he thought he was helping him out by drafting his college running back, two Clemson guys, but Urban Meyer, his first draft, and you could argue that, aside from the Trevor Lawrence pick, he hasn't exactly made this team better.
No, it's a weird one. A little worried about Urban Meyer. I said on, I think, the day one or day two live stream, we were live for every single pick, all 259. It was 17 hours on air. It was a lot, but it was a good time. I said on one of them, I think Urban Meyer is going to be John Beilein to football. John Beilein, great Michigan basketball coach in college, came to the NBA, coached for Cleveland, and was run out of the league in less than half a season. Just not a good NBA coach. Great college coach, but just doesn't work in the NBA. Right. I'm worried Urban Meyer is the same deal. He's made a bunch of weird moves already. The whole Iowa strength coach thing was bizarre. And then letting him resign and not firing him, just a tough move. Tim Tebow is a tight end. I don't know. It's kind of a gimmick, I think. Tim Tebow is just a gimmick at this point.
Right.
And then he comes out. Trevor Lawrence won. Hey, great job, man. Urban Meyer said he was getting interviewed before day two, and he was like, it's hard to mess up when you draft Trevor Lawrence at 1. Buddy, you messed up. Travis Etienne at 25. Bad pick, like we talked about. Tyson Campbell at 33. There were way better cornerbacks available. Tyson Campbell had a kind of bad 2020 for Georgia. Eric Stokes went in the first round at 29 to Green Bay. It was the better Georgia corner. Obviously, he wasn't available, but there was other corners that were available at the time that were way better than Tyson Campbell. Andre Sisco, Syracuse boy. It's probably one of the better picks. It's true. He did play in that game. At 65, I thought safety was a position of need. And then Luke Farrell at 145. I'm a Buckeye fan. Go Bucks. Let's go Ohio State. I'm sad Jameson Williams transferred to Alabama. But Luke Farrell had like 6 or 8 catches this year. He's just a blocking tight end. I don't know. It's just a weird draft. And I'm really worried about Urban Meyer. And I'm also worried about Trevor Lawrence because he is a generational quarterback. I know we're not throwing around that term, but we've talked about it twice now. And geez, man, that team might be bad. Might be bad for a very long time. He might get no help, really. I know they have a decent wide receiver core, offensive line. I mean, they brought in Walker Little, but Walker Little hasn't played football in 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just a weird draft for the Jaguars.
Fan lines are open. Hit that fan line in the top right corner of your screen. Come on, talk to us about the draft. Yoni Alpha here for Monday Night Call with Yoni and Paul. Tate here from the Rubus Draft Podcast. Love to have you on, talk about your team. Let's move on a little bit. Let's talk about quarterbacks more. All right, we talked about Lawrence, all those guys through Mac Jones. Let's talk about those next tier of quarterbacks and where they went. Davis Mills was the first pick of the Houston Texans. Kellen Mond to Minnesota. I want to first talk about the Davis Mills pick. The interesting thing is what I would have done if I was Houston is to would have totally avoided picking a quarterback in general. Just assumed you're going to go without Watson, ride that tank, get the number 1 overall pick next year. I know you already started your big board for 2022 with some impressive quarterbacks that could go, but their first pick, they're going with a quarterback that maybe will compete for a starting spot. Good pick at a good time, but I don't think that fits what Houston is going to try to do, which is lose football games.
Yeah, Davis Mills is fine. I don't hate the value at 67. I don't think it was really an overreach, but for their first pick to be a quarterback, I think it's telling. Deshaun Watson's not playing football in 2020, at least for the Texans. They have Tyrod Taylor, they have Ryan Finley, who are 2 guys who can play quarterback. It's not like Davis Mills has to play right away. Nico Collins at 89, stud. But I don't know. I think that pick, really the main takeaway for the Davis Mills pick to me is just Deshaun Watson is not playing football this year or maybe again.
Yeah, so again, I like Tyrod Taylor. You're a Browns guy, so you've seen Tyrod Taylor play some games. He's a guy who can – I don't know. I think Tyrod Taylor can get you to 6-10. Yes. But again, if you're the Houston Texans, you're kind of hoping for a 2-14 season.
Well, then maybe you play Davis Mills.
Then maybe you do play Davis
Mills. Davis Mills is unathletic in the pocket. I know producer Cam is talking up Walker Little right now to us, and this is another Stanford player. I don't know if producer Cam is a big Stanford guy, but Davis Mills is pretty unathletic, not very mobile. Can definitely sling it, has a good arm strength, pretty good deep ball, but if you want to lose games, I would actually maybe start Davis Mills.
Okay, so maybe you start Davis Mills. But again, even if maybe that's a start, but if you're picking a quarterback, I'd say round 3 or before, you have some sort of, future plans for him to be the guy. Mm-hmm. In some respect, different number 1 than 3rd round. But I don't think that's what the Houston Texans are going to do. They're going to be a bottom 3 team in the league next year. Spencer Rattler has to be on their minds. Sam Howell has to be on their minds. I don't know if Davis Mills is going to be the answer. So that's kind of my first one. Kellen Mond to Minnesota. Another very telling pick, right? Yeah. Kirk Cousins, is he on his way out? Kellen Mond not putting up the best stats against all of his counterparts, but that dude wins football games. That was a very, very good number 5 ranked Texas A&M team to end the year. He will compete soon, although I see you had a poor draft grade for where he was drafted.
Yeah, I don't know. Kellen Mond played, hold on, let me get my number on it. A bunch of college games, 3.5-year start out in the game total. He started 3.5 years, and we don't know if he's good, which is somewhat concerning. He never really made a jump, never really had real consistency. He wins football games, like you mentioned, and RG3 went on and said that he does a lot of things, and I agree, that Kirk Cousins doesn't. And if the Vikings are looking to go a different way, if you're Kirk Cousins, what RG3 said is, that pick would make you upset because they drafted a guy that has different skill sets than you, and maybe that's what they're looking for at quarterback. I gave the pick a D on my draft grades. Maybe it's a bit harsh. Like I said, I don't love Kellen Mond. He had a lot of late hype in terms of draft stock, but another team that at the pick signals Kirk Cousins is on the way out. They're looking for Kellen Mond to be the guy. If it actually comes to fruition, if he actually takes over the starting reins, remain to be seen. He's definitely a guy that could, certainly, but I don't have a ton of faith in it.
From looking at your draft board, though, I don't even think that was one of the lowest QB grades. Sam Ehlinger to the Colts was another pick you didn't like. They trade for Carson Wentz. A young kid in the quarterback room, maybe just to learn. They're hoping for a lot of upside. The dude is a gamer. The dude is a risk taker. Not sure how that translates at the next level, but it looks like he might be the number 2 guy in Indianapolis this coming season.
Yeah, he's a good fullback. Good Taysom Hill.
He's a chunky dude. I would
type
that
option. Yeah. He's not an NFL quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. I don't see him ever developing into an NFL quarterback. At the Senior Bowl, it was apparent he can't take snaps under center. He had to stay after practice every day and take snaps under center, and he just can't. This is something he can't do, which is needed in the NFL. He comes from the shotgun pass-heavy Texas offense, not a pro-style offense. If you want to use him as Taysom Hill and just kind of run him around the field in different places, I'm all for that. As a fullback, I'm all for it. But as a quarterback, no thank you.
Let's step away from the draft for a second, but something that was very popular on draft day. We'll talk about Aaron Rodgers. Dan in the comments talking about Aaron Rodgers. Saints fan, come on the fan line, get some more NFC representation here. Aaron Rodgers is still under contract with the Green Bay Packers. The ownership and the general managers are very, very keen on having him stay for obvious reasons. There was talk of whether or not he'd get traded or what he'd get traded for. There were rumors about him being close to being traded to the Broncos on night one. That falls through. I don't know what to believe and what not to believe, but it looks like he's going to be a Packer for at least the short-term future.
He's a Packer in the same way that I am a genius. I don't know.
Wow. Okay.
He'll be under contract. I don't know what trade package you put together for Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. A lot would be the answer, and I don't know if a team would put that together or even if the Packers would listen to it. But this is a dude who doesn't even talk to his own mother. If the Packers think they're winning a standoff with Aaron Rodgers, I got news for you. You're not. He's going to go be the Jeopardy host. He'll be just fine. He made a bunch of money. He doesn't care.
Got a ring.
They're not winning that. I don't really see a easy resolution. I don't know what team would trade for him. I don't know if the Packers would what they would ask for. I don't know how they would end the standoff. Like they wanted a contract restructure. He wanted an extension. They have just their last 10 first-round picks, 9 defensive players, and Jordan Love.
Yeah.
This is Aaron Rodgers, league MVP, ridiculously talented, and you can't draft wide receivers in the first round. You can't get this guy weapons. I don't see it ending well. I don't see him really ever playing a game for the Packers again.
Wow. So maybe it'll be Aaron Rodgers, the Jeopardy host. The only thing the Packers have going against him in trading him is he is not a young guy, still operating at a high level, but that is some sort of leverage that the Packers can have in the trade market. Again, a lot of people kind of reading some stuff that he might go to Denver. A lot of that was kind of refuted, but
I think the reports of it were maybe they called and just asked. I don't think the news broke on draft day at 4 or something, and draft starts at 8, I think it was, or 7:30 or something. 7.
The first pick was at 8:30, but the festivities started at 7:30.
I don't know what trade package you can put together in 3 hours. That's in my opinion, a bit short in terms of, getting a trade package, all the way through and agreed upon. So I don't know if the length that actually went. Maybe the Broncos called and were like, hey, what are you asking for? Right. And they were like 5 1s. And they were like, okay, see ya, and then hung up. I don't know. I don't know if that report was overblown or if accurate or whatever, but it just seems like too short of a time.
Yeah, it would
to get anything real done.
Still not impossible. Our good friend Evan Jenkins is asking about Tevin Jenkins going early in the second round. Yeah. He was a guy who his draft stock soared in the month before the draft, going to the Chicago Bears. Get you a guy to protect Justin Fields. Good pick.
Yeah, I love that pick. I love the Bears' entire draft. Tevin Jenkins, the reason he fell out of the first round was he has a bad hip. The medicals on the hip pushed him down. Teams, I think, weren't willing to take a risk there. Fell to 39. Bears scooped him up, given more protection for Justin Fields. One of the best, if not the best, run-blocking tackle in the class. A really mean dude. If you look up the picture of him on Google, this is kind of what he went viral for, at least on Twitter. Mm-hmm. His team headshot is just very funny because he just looks so innocent, but he is a mauler. Great run blocker, very good in pass pro. And at 39, I think getting Justin Fields as starting tackle is a great move. They're starting to release some guys, free up some cap space. Larry Borum, their 5th round pick, I also think is expected to play, whether it's at guard or tackle. Larry Borum is another very good player. I love the Bears' entire draft. I think they were the highest graded pick. Yeah, they're the highest graded team as of now in my grades.
Here's another question for you about trading and what it'll tell for certain teams in the future. The Atlanta Falcons taking Kyle Pitts at number 4. They're looking to trade Julio Jones after June 1st. Does that solidify that Julio's not playing for Atlanta in 2021?
Falcons are a weird team. They need a defense down horrifically. Mm-hmm. Their defense is the reason they lost the Super Bowl. It's the reason they've been losing games ever since. They have the offense to win a lot of football games. And so, in my opinion, if I were the GM, I would have traded down out of 4. I know it's weird to say, but you don't need Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, a awesome tight end, Darren Waller-esque, athletic, can literally just play wide receiver if you want. But he'll just be such a mismatch lining up at tight end. I don't know about the whole Julio thing. I don't know where he gets traded to. I don't know really any of that. I'm not a very good speculator in terms of trading. But yeah, trading down, getting defense, getting more draft capital, in my opinion, would have been the better move. And just telling Matt Ryan, sorry, but this is the best option for our franchise instead of getting another offensive weapon. That offense is loaded now.
Yeah.
Loaded, even if they trade Julio.
Right.
But that defense is still just not great.
The question is, you're at 4, and Kyle Pitts is the best available player. And if he's not the best available player, it's probably Jamar Chase, who you need even less so than Kyle Pitts.
Yes.
And so the question is how much are they doing that because Julio's out the door, or the Falcons are at 4 and they're like, hey, like history is going to look back on us as the team that did not pick or traded out of and losing Kyle Pitts. And it's like, we kind of have to take him. And so that's what they did.
Yeah. I understand the thought process behind Kyle Pitts. There were reports that the Lions wanted to move up from 7 to 4 to get Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Not a huge jump. Only 3 picks, but apparently the Falcons were asking too much. And so if there was another team, say the Patriots wanted to move up to 4 or the Broncos move up to 4 for a quarterback, that asking price, I'm sure, would be even larger than it was for the Lions moving up from 7. So all the reports were saying that the Falcons were asking for way too much and were pretty much just dead set on staying at 4 unless they got some ridiculous trade package.
Right. Interesting there as well. I want to go back to a question I asked Ethan that I want to turn back on you as a Cleveland Browns fan. Let's talk AFC North Draft, kind of who improved there the most, who's threatening the most there to win that division, to really compete with the Browns. Bengals had high picks, but they still have a long way to go. The Steelers, you think they really botched their first-round pick. The Ravens, though, I know you liked the Ravens' first couple picks. They're going to continue to compete. They got Lamar Jackson, a goddamn wide receiver, and that is huge.
They got him 2 wide receivers. Like I mentioned, I really like Rashad Bateman. He's 17 on my board. They got him at 27, and they got Tylan Wallace, who's 38 on my board, all the way down at 131. 2 excellent route runners, both day one ready, really polished. Tylan Wallace went to the Senior Bowl, and all of the scouts there were saying that he is day one ready, NFL polished, really good route runner, like can immediately come in and contribute, and then falls to 131. Surprising. Rashad Bateman can play slot. He can play outside. I assume they play him outside. He's got the size for it. Awesome hands, really good route runner, can separate with a little bit of speed and also just technical route running ability. And then they can move Marquise Brown into the slot. And that is an awesome receiving core now. Mark Andrews, had a questionable 2020, but is still a weapon. And then obviously they have a million running backs. So the Ravens, in my opinion, I think had the second best draft in the division. Browns 1. Bengals 3, probably. I think they had a pretty average draft. Not a bad one by any stretch of imagination. I'm not docking them at all. But just compared to the Ravens and the Browns, they're clearly 3.
A lot of people are coming at the Cincinnati Bengals. They're like, there's that picture of Joe Burrow with that gigantic scar on his knee.
Yeah.
And it's like, tell me what position the Bengals are going to take without actually telling me.
Yeah.
And it's like the Bengals are a lock to either take Sewell, trade down and take Slater, take an offensive lineman. Jamar Chase helps that team, no doubt about it. And that team is in need of a number 1 wide receiver because John Ross is kind of booty. So the question is, should they have gone to protect Joe Burrow instead of adding the weapon? Again, similar conversation with Atlanta. Jamar Chase, you could argue, was the best player at that position, but that offensive line needed a lot of help, a lot of rebuilding. Jonah Williams, a high pick from many years ago, he's having a lot of trouble staying on the field. So that's kind of another one where Jamar Chase is not a bad pick. You have him at an A, but could they have done better?
Definitely. Penei Sewell's on the board.
Yeah.
I've obviously spoken very highly of Penei Sewell already on this show. Obviously, they passed on him for Jamar Chase. I think they fell in love with the idea of reuniting him with Joe Burrow, his college quarterback, these two that set this record year in the LSU offense in 2019. I don't hate the pick. AJ Green's out the door. John Ross is actually out the door. He signed with the Giants.
Oh, right. That's right.
It's Tyler Boyd now as their wide receiver 1, who's good, no doubt about it. But getting him Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd is a preferable option. Penei Sewell obviously would be nice, but I think the team just fell in love with too much with Chase and Burrow being reunited. They drafted Jackson Carmine, Clemson tackle, who's going to play guard because he can't really play tackle, can't really slide. And then Deontay Smith from ECU, another Senior Bowl guy who I like. I like the pick. Maybe needs a little bit more development, isn't year 1 ready, but keep Jonah Williams healthy. You give Burrow another weapon. I definitely understand both thought processes, the tackle idea and the wide receiver idea.
Right. The question is, if you're either a draft analyst, if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, you come out of this year, Jamar Chase has 1,300 yards receiving, but you're also second most sacks allowed in the league.
Yep.
And you go, you win one more game, two more games. It's like, well, great, we have this stud wide receiver, but Joe Burrow is going to tear another ACL. And it's like,
yeah, I mean, they signed Riley Reef, who to I think a 1-year deal. He's not Penei Sewell. He's not. I'm not saying, oh yeah, they're fine because they have Riley Reef, but at least they addressed it a little bit. They spent a couple draft picks on it. They're thinking about it, but I could I don't know. Jamar Chase is ridiculously talented, and I think at the end of the day, they thought it was more of a position of value and too good to pass up.
Yeah,
it's tough. I understand both thought processes each way.
Again, I don't think it's when you're picking that high and there are a lot of great players available, it's gonna be tough to go wrong.
Yes.
As opposed to kind of picking later down. Talking a little bit, going back to the Cleveland Browns. I've watched a lot of Cleveland Browns games with you in the fall. You're not very big on Greedy Williams. You're definitely out on guys like Andrew Sendejo.
Not on the team anymore. Don't worry.
But you were still out on him. So adding to the secondary was important. That Greg Newsome pick. How big is that pick that it's being in the secondary?
Awesome. And pre-draft, the Browns were very tight-lipped about what they were going to do. A lot of teams, there's rumors and stuff about who they're interested. The Jets' interest for Elijah Vera Tucker was very well known. Greg Newsome, a stud. The two things I heard from Browns were in the first round, it's not going to be a linebacker. It will be a position that Andrew Berry values, cornerback.
Right.
And then at some point, they're going to add a speedy wide receiver. They did that in Anthony Swartz in the 3rd round. But Greg Newsome, awesome. Day one ready, had a ridiculous 2020, tons of zone experience in a Northwestern defense that is very pro-oriented.
Yeah.
Sure. So I love that pick. Hopefully Greedy Williams is healthy. There's a lot of reports. We've heard it a little before, but it seems more real this year that Greedy Williams is healthy now.
Right.
He's finally ready to play. The shoulder issue was known before we drafted him. Also, fun fact, his older brother was drafted by the Giants this year.
His older brother.
Greedy Williams' older brother was drafted by the Giants this year. Greedy Williams has been in the league for 2-3 years?
I think 2 years. This will be his 3rd year.
Rodarius Williams is turning 25 this year. That is the main doc against Rodarius Williams.
One more quick question before we get Daniel on the fan line. Talked a lot about here. We have a lot of Patriots fans on. Bill Belichick. Why is he drafting wide receivers? Every wide receiver he picks is terrible. It's a little bit of a shorter timeline, but there's a similar complex with Cleveland, right? With the exception of Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams has been Jabril Peppers is gone. We can go back even a little further than that to some DBs they picked really high with not a lot of success. Are you concerned that Greg Newsome could fall? And I mean, I think Denzel Ward is the outlier.
Stud.
But the question is Greg Newsome going to be another high DB picked by the Browns that just becomes average at best?
I don't think so. It won't be on Denzel's level.
No.
He could, honestly. I think he has a very high ceiling. He does have some injury histories, which is concerning considering Greedy Williams. I don't think it's as extensive as Greedy's issue or as permanent. I don't know. I think Greg Newsome is different than the other guys. Justin Gilbert was the guy.
Yeah, Justin Gilbert.
Biggest bust of all time. Overstatement.
Nope, biggest bust of all time. And on that note, we got Dan coming on the fan line, talking Saints and more. They got the quarterback of the future, man. It's Ian Book,
baby. Let's go.
Ian Book, quarterback of the future. A little bit undersized, but
Joe Montana, Baker Mayfield, rolled up and won, wins football games, keeps protection on the ball.
Dan, thanks so much for coming on.
Of course, happy to be here. So honestly, I'm hoping you guys can enlighten me on the Saints picks because I have no clue who they are besides Paulson Adebo because he's good in Madden. Other than that, I'm clueless. So
okay. Paulson Adebo was good in Madden? Are these guys already in Madden?
Yeah, you can import draft classes.
Import draft classes.
Oh, okay.
So someone made him good in Madden.
Yes.
Paulson Adebo is long. I'm going to, again, get the number. I talked about these guys for so long. You'd think I'd have these numbers memorized. 27 pass breakups in 2 years, 19 in 2018 alone, or 2018 alone. He is long, knows how to get to the ball, has great ball skills. I love that pick at 76. Peyton Turner, we talked about this a little, I think, before the show started.
Yeah, I love pre-production.
Toolsy guy, 6'8", really long. The flash plays are ridiculous.
6'8" is almost too big.
6'6". Hold on. Let's get a better number.
But there was, he was a tall guy. But there is people want like length of defensive end
6'6".
position, but again, 6'6" is like
35-inch arms.
Is like almost too tall because you have to be able to move.
Yes, my first note on him on my note page is he looks like a child in adult body. Sometimes he just looks too out of control, too uncoordinated.
Just gangly.
I don't think he has a great idea of his bend. I thought that was an overdraft, a reach, 28. But again, the flashes on him are ridiculous. This is why teams liked him. This is why he had the hype, is because playing for Houston, lower competition level, his flashes are ridiculous. And then Pete Werner from the Ohio State.
I was going to say, good football school.
Trading at 60, or trading up to 60. High character guy, high IQ guy. Seems to be a big football guy at 60 though. I don't know. There were a lot of reports that he was going to go earlier than a lot of people thought. And sure enough, he did. Because 60, again, another little bit of a reach, if you ask me. And then Ian Book. I like Ian Book. He's QB9 for me, has a 3rd-round grade. I was higher on him by like 100 than all my other co-hosts, which is ludicrous.
I think the weird thing is it's not like kind of where he picked, but where he's at now, right? So now that QB room is Ian Book, Jameis Winston, and Taysom Hill, which is like a lot going on in terms of skill set, in terms of experience, in terms of where you use them in that Saints offense, in that QB room. And it's like, if the Saints didn't have enough questions, like another one.
Yes. Not as a mess as the Steelers quarterback room, which is a whole nother topic.
Well, they're just bad. This is like the Saints are like, are they going this way? Are they going this way? Are they going this way? The Steelers just like, they're in bad shape.
They gave Taysom Hill that huge contract, which voidable years. But as friend of the pod, Field Yates told us, name drop,
Field Yates.
Those years are voidable, yes, but you have to pay it at a point. That's not fake money. It's not, it's real money that you got to pay at some point, and it'll go against the salary cap. Legally cited quarterback Jameis Winston, who I am pro Jameis Winston, legally cited quarterback Jameis Winston, led the league in yards, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. When he was legally blind, is now legally cited, legally cited quarterback Jameis Winston. So I'm excited to see him finally have a real job, a real starting job for a couple years. Taysom Hill, I think they still continue to use him as a gadget player.
Yeah.
And then I think Ian Book is just like insurance in case Jameis goes down, or is again, legally cited quarterback Jameis Winston, bad.
The thing is, Taysom Hill wants to play quarterback. Like, he'll be on an NFL roster and he'll do his job, but they gave him a little taste of what it means to be an NFL quarterback, and I think he wants to be. And I'll ask that to you as a Saints fan.
Yes, as the Saints fan.
As a Saints fan, I mean, this dude wants to be an NFL quarterback. Forget the draft. Forget legally cited quarterback Jameis Winston. Like, if Taysom Hill starts the first 4 games at quarterback, are you confident you can at least go 2-2?
Yes, 2-2, sure.
Okay.
4-0 or 3-1. 3-1 maybe. 4-0 definitely not.
Depends
on who we play.
Also, it depends on the schedule.
It depends on the schedule for sure. But my thing is if you're looking for a QB to sort of raise Ian Book as a bring him into the system, you'd want to be Drew Brees, not blindsided Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill. So that QB room is a little confusing.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think Sean Payton's got it under control, and I think that'll be a Sean Payton project, and he'll make sure he puts him in the right way. I mean, look, Ian Book at 133 is just about kind of where you had him.
I had him at 105 on my big board.
Okay, so a little bit lower. The question is, if you have a guy going in the 4th round, that is typically reserved for a guy that can come in and be a 2nd stringer as a rookie. But Ian Book is going to come in and be a 3rd stringer.
Debatably.
Again, where do you put Taysom Hill on a depth chart?
Right.
If I can start him at fantasy football and tight end, then
yeah. He's like question mark. If you have a position for question mark, that's where Taysom Hill is.
Capital A is where Taysom Hill is.
This is NCAA football 12. We're recruiting athletes. I don't know. I think I said it on our YouTube channel when we did our top 10 quarterbacks on our big board. I think Ian Book is going to have a very long career as a career backup. Like, I don't think he's really going to be anything special. Who's the Chase Daniel? I think Chase Daniel is my who I think Ian Book.
Yeah.
No, I don't know about play style, but like who I think he's going to be.
Okay.
Like I think a career backup who's going to make some money and come in at times and make some plays.
All I'm saying is if we go into the preseason and Ian Book throws like 8 touchdowns and no interceptions, you got to be like, well, fuck. Like now, like what, we're going to carry 3 quarterbacks? Like you can do it. The Patriots did it for a little bit and then picked Hoyer onto the practice squad. But like that's kind of the other thing I think about is it's very, very rare in today's NFL to carry 3 quarterbacks for a lot of reasons. And so the Saints are already going to put themselves behind the 8 ball if you're going to carry 3 quarterbacks. They need depth in a lot of other positions. They found that a wide receiver when they had some guys go down hurt, especially also at the linebacker. They needed some help. Depth-wise, they got some guys coming up in age there. I don't think Anzalone's very good. So carrying 3 quarterbacks can come back to bite you in the ass.
I mean, maybe they only carry 2 and he's just working on the practice squad.
Yeah, he can.
He has tons of experience. It's just insurance policy in case Jameis, again, is bad or hurt.
Right.
Or becomes
And one thing I will make sure to note, as Navs always says, the cap is fake. So Tate, we're fine.
The cap is not fake. I got bad news for Saints fans. The cap is very much real in all these avoidable years. Like if you cut him after 2 years, all of the money is on that cap year. Like that's a lot of money.
But I mean, like people were talking about cutting half the roster. Saints are going to go 0-16. They're going to be awful this year. But like, look at us now. We're fine.
That has remained to be seen.
They did erase. I don't know if they're fine, but they did erase a lot of cap troubles with very few moves.
They restructured some deals. They made a couple of years, but they still lost some pieces. I mean, I pulled the team on them, but like it wasn't as bad as it was made out to be. But like Jared Cook, Josh Hill, Emmanuel Sanders, Trey Hendrickson, Malcolm Brown, Sheldon Rankins, Quan Alexander, Janoris Jenkins. These are all guys that played football for the team last year and are now gone.
Right. It's going to be tough. We wish you the best, especially with the defending Super Bowl champions in your division. Dan, thanks so much for coming on the fan line. Matan has entered the chat. Hopefully he can get in and come on the fan line. We got a new fan backstage. I'm casting my reel in. Oh, we got Liam coming in on the fan line. Maybe talking some New York Jets. We have our New York Jets representation with Paul taking a seat today. But love to have Liam coming in on the fan line. If this is Liam we're thinking about, could be a different Liam.
Oh, it's me. It's yours truly. Talking about the Jets, of course, because we miss Paul and we need some Jets representation.
Of course. Thanks
I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on Jets draft pick, especially our second round pick, Elijah Moore. I kind of had some difficulties with us taking a wide receiver there. I know our offense was pretty bad, but our
you like Denzel Mims that much?
Pretty bad too.
You like Denzel Mims that much?
Well, the thing is, it's not just Denzel Mims. It's Denzel Mims, Jamison Crowder. We just signed Corey Davis and Keelan Cole in free agency. And on the cornerback side, we dropped Brian Poole, who was like our number one corner, a shitty number one corner, but a number one corner nonetheless. Mm-hmm. And we didn't pick anyone good up in free agency. So I just thought, Asante Samuel Jr. was sitting right there, but instead we go, sort of slot receiver, Elijah Moore. What do you guys think?
Elijah Moore is probably a day one guy, but yeah, Asante Samuel's there.
Yeah, Asante Samuel, guy, Florida State cornerback, who ended up going, I think, to Jerryville. No.
He went to Carolina, did he?
I have a horrible memory. Hold on. Control F. Samuel.
Chargers.
Anyways, so it's kind of a size concerns on Asante Samuel as he played outside for Florida State, has great ball skills, great ball production in that way, but can he play consistent outside, I guess, is the main question on Asante Samuel. Elijah Moore, potentially day one, slot-only guy, but the Ole Miss lined him up at running back a lot and just, fed him touches. Just, design up touches for Elijah Moore. He's going to make guys miss. He is an electric football player, dominant in 2020, has just ridiculous change of direction. So he is an absolute weapon for New York. And it was interesting that, they went offense with their first 4 picks and then defense with their next 7 picks or 5 picks or 6 picks, whatever it is. I can't count. So that was interesting. I guess the New York Michael Carters said, we're going to score a lot of points on offense and defense will be fine, not great. The defensive line is awesome, but yeah, I probably would have liked to see corner at 34, but Elijah Moore is such a stud that I think you can justify it.
Yeah, my question to you, Liam, there was a lot of drama coming in after day one and into day two that they trade Sam Darnold. He wasn't very productive, but as soon as they get rid of him, offense, help Zach Wilson, build the offensive line, get more weapons in. Do you now feel a little bit bad for Sam Darnold that the first draft he's gone? This is how the Jets use their first 4 picks.
Well, I don't know if I feel bad for Sam Darnold, because like if you do the same exact thing again and you draft, you don't sign anyone around him or draft anyone around Zach Wilson, like he's doomed to fail again. I guess the good thing for Zach Wilson is he'll have a new coach that, he won't have to deal with switching from Todd Bowles to Adam Gase, who both did not help Darnold develop. But, was it the coaches or was it the talent around him? It was probably a bit of both. So hopefully coming in, get a bunch of offensive guys. I love the Vera Tucker. I love that we traded up for Vera Tucker. I think we're going to be absolutely locked down on the left side, assuming he plays guard. And I think that'll be really good for Zach Wilson. So I'm glad, things will be good for Zach Wilson. I think, we still need some moves on the defensive side. I think that'll definitely be lacking. But, Hamza
Nasruddin was a steal at 186. He's got these weird medicals, didn't really play a ton of football in 2020, and there wasn't much known on it. It was kind of similar to what happened to Rondale Moore. It was like he wasn't playing football and the team wasn't saying why. But at 186, he was like 45 or something on my board. He's going to play linebacker for them. Isn't a great coverage guy. For a linebacker, he's going to be a very good coverage guy. For a safety, he's not a good coverage guy. And then the corners. Jameen Sherwood is a safety that they might play at linebacker from, I think, Auburn. Michael Carter II, after Michael Carter. Michael Carter II plays corner. Apparently is a very good slot guy. I actually hadn't heard of him, shocking as it is, but has some very impressive slot stats. So I guess he's going to be a good slot corner. Jason Pinnock, Hamza, and then Brandon Eichels. So they drafted guys. They're filling out the roster, but none of them are real studs that stick out as like, oh yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah. And then Zach Wilson,
who is supposedly the guy.
It makes me a little disappointed. I really like Justin Fields. Zach Wilson, he had maybe one good year and he doesn't play anyone good. And when he plays people good, he sucks.
Pro day God. That's what people are saying about him, which is why.
They all had good pro days. Justin had a good pro day. Trey Lance had a good pro day. I don't know. If we're drafting quarterbacks off their pro day, I think we need to reevaluate the process.
We'll see. Good luck to you and your team in the AFC East coming this year. Hopefully this quarterback does not get mono, but who knows?
Hopefully, he's Mormon, so I think he'll stay away from that.
A lot of different ways to get mono. Crazy things have happened.
Fair enough. All right, thanks, guys.
Fan line. I pro day God, really both.
Justin had some just ridiculous throws. The one throw from Zach Wilson, like rolling to his left and then throwing to his right, like 55-yard bomb.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was a sick throw. Yes. Liam, I was spot on. Liam kind of took the words out of my mouth. He had one good year in 2020, was average previously in his games versus ranked competition. He threw 6 of his 30 career games versus ranked opponents, 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in those games.
What was the first stat?
6 of his 30 career games were versus ranked opponents.
Yeah, tough being an independent school.
Absolutely. But when he played those 6 games, 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That's just okay.
One ranked team last year, Coastal Carolina, they lost.
And he didn't play great. He had a fine game. It wasn't his fault they lost, but was just fine.
No, you're the quarterback. You got to win the football game. Matan is here, ready to come on the fan line, fashionably late, 10:29 p.m. I can't wait to hear the excuses coming out of his mouth, but I'm sure he wants to talk about the Giants as well. Matan, welcome to the fan line.
Okay, so I was in Verdansk. I apologize. It's not my
You were
fault.
in where?
He was playing Warzone.
Oh,
Big Warzone guy.
I guess so.
Okay, so first of all, I want to touch on the Zach.
I think Mel Kiper mentioned it.
I want to know Tate
Killing it, doing a great job.
So Mel Kiper, I think, touched on this, and he said just because Zach Wilson was the Jets guy doesn't mean he was a clear number 2 pick for them, but it didn't seem to me that he was the second best quarterback there. And I'm wondering why the Jets were just like, so he's a guy. Like, what did they see that I didn't see? Because I didn't see it.
It's the Mormon Mahomes thing. It's his ability when he gets out of the pocket to keep his eyes downfield, extend plays, and just improvise and make these huge plays for his football team are what a lot of people, I think, became obsessed with him this year. He did it a ton for BYU in 2020. He isn't like the most athletic guy. I think Justin Fields is a better athlete, but he has a really good ability to extend plays, get out of the pocket, keep his eyes downfield while avoiding the rush, and generate big plays for his team, which is like exactly what Patrick Mahomes does on top of being an awesome quarterback. I'm not saying Zach Wilson is Mahomes. This is something my co-host Max Chadwick has said. He calls him Mormon Mahomes. He has made this clear. My comp for Zach Wilson is actually Johnny Manziel, minus the drug addiction. And I think
he's Mormon. Once he goes on, what do the Amish call it when like they do like their 2 years out?
That's mission. That is
mission. Yeah.
Yeah. That's Mormon guys. Brady Christensen, who was in this draft class, took 2 years off. That's like his biggest knock is that he's old because he had a 2-year mission, came back, was down for BYU. But he's like 24, 25 as a rookie.
Thank you, RA, with the Rumspringer. That's a word I was looking for.
Okay.
Okay.
Not familiar with Rumspringer.
All right, Matan, just quick thoughts, bounce some ideas about your Giants in this draft.
Okay. So Kadarius Toney, I'm fine with it. I'm worried about the injury stuff, the way he looks, like in the way he plays kind of worries me when he gets to see some big NFL guys. And I think the injury thing is going to be real. I just think he has to adapt a little bit. And I think that's possible. And I think that leaves us with a really good wide receiver core of Slayton, Toney, Shepard, and who am I forgetting? That's embarrassing.
Evan Ingram.
Fair. So I'm fine with it. I love the trade because I think that Bears pick, like, I don't see that being worse than a 15. I think it has top 10 potential easily, which is going to be good if for some reason we decide Daniel Jones isn't our guy.
Ooh, are we already looking at Daniel Jones?
We're talking Sam Howell, Spencer Rattler, Caden Slovis. Actually, he's horrible, so don't talk about him.
I don't think the Giants are going to be bad enough to get some of those guys you just said.
But I think the Bears might be.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I don't know about that. Next year's quarterback class, if we're going to talk to 2022, a lot of depth. I had 15, 16 quarterbacks ranked in this year's class. I already have like 27 guys that I'm keeping my eyes on for next year. Mm-hmm. So if all of those guys declare and have like good seasons, there's a lot of depth to be had in next year's quarterback class, even if you don't have the first or second pick.
That's fair. And I want to ask a question to Yoni because I feel like I don't know. I think the wide receiver thing is being talked about, but it just feels to me like recently, and I'm not talking about his coaching, but like I don't think Bill Belichick is good at drafting. And at what point does Robert Kraft kind of say like this is not working? I don't know.
It's like yes and no, right? Because he's picked some guys in like the 5th to 7th round that are like, Michael Owenu from Michigan, who was like a 6th round pick who started 12 games for them, who was a beast,
stud,
who was so good. The obvious ones like Edelman was a 7th round pick, Malcolm Butler, undrafted free agent. You can have there are other guys. James White was a 4th round pick. So Shaq Mason was a 4th round pick. He was a 2nd team all-pro guy. So like it's weird because like the 1st and 2nd round picks he's not hitting on. But like once you get into day 3,
like the Seahawks.
Like once you get into day 3, like Belichick is gonna find some guys, and that's the weirdest thing about it.
Yeah, but then you have him taking this first round pick, quarterback, which I think the value at 15 was great, and I'm not saying it's a bad pick, but to me it just kind of seems like there's like these narratives going around like, oh, they should have grabbed Mac Jones as soon as they took Trey Lance, and it just seems like super weird to me that as soon as Belichick thinks, like he hasn't hit on a quarterback really since Brady. And Brady, like, I mean, he's about to lose his starting job.
Okay, I mean, he got hurt, which stunk, but he got a big deal, and he led a team to a Super Bowl.
I would say
25 that 1 year.
I would say Brissett would be the best example.
We're all good.
Yeah, Brissett.
He hasn't had to hit on a quarterback. He's had the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. Like
Totally, but I just feel like these first round picks are just so like I'm obviously not saying that Belichick is bad at his job. I just think like the voices in the room aren't good enough, and this Alabama thing that keeps on happening is very weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Matan Rosenfeld will be submitting his name for the New England Patriots head coaching job pretty soon.
For Bill right now.
I think that's what's happening. Sure, I mean, and look, every time you can give me examples of bad picks, I'll give you examples of good picks, right? Chandler Jones and Dante Hightower were 2 first-round picks in the same season. Rob Gronkowski was a second-round pick. Aaron Hernandez was a 4th-round pick who was good except for one really big issue.
What happened?
I think it was 3 big issues. I don't know how many people he killed.
Allegedly.
So that's kind of right. And then Isaiah Wynn picked up his 5th-year option today, so he could still be a really good player for them. Asante Samuel, 1st-round pick. Vince Wilfork, 1st-round pick. So there are going to be guys on both sides of the coin. All in all, he ends up doing pretty well. And whatever he doesn't draft well, he usually makes up for it in big free agency signings.
Okay, and then last question: how long do we think that the Bears ownership is going to let this Fields thing ride out before they clear house?
Wow, you're already pulling the plug on Justin Fields. He was just
no, not necessarily on Justin Fields, but on Matt Nagy and in the front office.
Yeah, the question still stands.
They're on the hottest hot seat that you could possibly be on, and to be fair to them, they went for it. And in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, they hit it out of the park. Their draft class, to me, is by far and away the best in the entire NFL.
I mean, I think they make the trade because they know they're on the hot seat. If they think they have a couple of years, they don't make that trade.
I don't know. We will see. Matan, better late than never. Thanks so much for coming to the fan line with the sideways Levi's logo. We got one more fan. I think we got Aryeh coming on the fan line, and then we're going to go right into final thoughts, get you guys on your way. Aryeh, probably going to be Aryeh. Yes, it is Aryeh coming on talking Washington football team.
Interesting.
Fitzmagic is the guy. They don't go with any other of the late round QBs. Oh, they got Heineke.
I'm all in on him.
All in on Heineke. Aryeh, how's it going?
I'm doing good. I resent the fact that you always make me talk about the Washington football team because they just drive me insane every single time. Though I'm not unhappy about this draft in the slightest. But Yoni, lovely to see you. Tate, I don't know who you are, but you're a smart man, so it's a pleasure.
It's an absolute pleasure to meet you as well.
Anyway, here's the thing. Diamond Brown is my boy. He's gonna be awesome. He's gonna be awesome. Fitzmagic is just gonna throw the ball to him 20 times a game, 50 yards down the field. 10 are gonna be touchdowns, 8 are gonna be interceptions, and 2 are gonna go to who knows where. And it's gonna be an absolute pleasure to watch. In all seriousness, I did love the value. I love getting him there. I love getting Jamin in the first tee. I'm a little bit less bullish on the fact that like linebacker was a position of need than like apparently the Washington football team front office thought it was. I'm like a low-key strong believer in what I once read was called the Haloti Ngata law, which is the fact that like your linebackers are just as good as your line, and like stop over-investing in your linebackers, in particular inside linebackers. Like chill, stop looking at them, invest in your defensive tackles, you'll be fine. And like this team has a line, and what they don't have is any playmakers in the secondary. So like I was a little disappointed that I think what's his name, Benjamin Just or whatever it was the guy they went with in the who like he's a fine it's not a bad pick there. I just kind of wish we had invested in the secondary a little bit earlier than we actually did. So that's kind of where I am right now. No bad picks. No one I was upset about. I'm glad we addressed the offensive line. I knew that we were going into this whole situation without a quarterback play. I was not surprised that they didn't make any big moves to try to move up or take anyone who might have been there. Frankly, I'm glad they didn't make any rash moves. I'd rather us play it a little bit thoughtfully. But overall, I was kind of content. Love to hear y'all's thoughts.
Go for it.
Yeah, I said it earlier. I think Washington had the best draft of their division. Jamie Davis, a guy who's underexperienced, but is just a ridiculous athlete, has a lot of tools. Run defender, I think he may struggle in coverage. It's like I said, the experience isn't there, so the sample size on his coverage ability is remain to be seen. But Sam Cosmi at 51 is a steal. Ridiculously good pass protector. I'm high on Benjamin St-Juste. 6'3", long corner, can play press, can play off ball. I think he's got the tools for it. Diami Brown, deep ball.
Tate, quick question regarding Juste. I keep hearing that he gets overly in the face and draws a hell of a ton of penalties, which I assume is something to be concerned about, or is that just run of the mill for cornerbacks who don't have much experience?
I don't have penalties on weakness. Yeah. So the issue with guys college cornerbacks who have a lot of penalties in college is the rules are nicer in college to corners than they are in the NFL. When he gets to the NFL, a big thing for J.C. Horn and a couple other corners in this class was if you have a lot of penalties, especially PI or holding, the thought process would be that it's going to increase in the NFL and there's going to be more of them. I don't have a weakness down for say penalties in terms of penalties, but I mean, it's
I believe it. I keep hearing the word I've seen in 3 different places was handsy, and that he often tries to use his hands to grab back instead of staying disciplined and making a play. I don't know if that's true. I have not seen him at all, so I'm glad that you see it.
He plays a lot of press and he likes to be physical because he is 6'3", big boy. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'll give you the time if you want to talk about something other than the WFT. If you had any other thoughts on the draft, I didn't want to corner you on it. Now is the time.
I appreciate that. No, I always love discussing them, and they're all over the place. Here are my 2 main thoughts in the draft. Number 1, my player comp for Zach Wilson, not from a perspective of their actual play style, but in terms of some of the reasons that people have gotten so excited about them, reminds me a lot of the discussion around Jameis Winston. The tools, the play style is radically different, but what you kept hearing before the draft is that Jameis Winston would go into these meetings and they would look at tape and he would be able to see things that other players weren't able to see, and then see them ahead of time to go for it. And I think those types of plays where Zach Wilson just kind of makes things that happen out of nowhere that he kept having to do this year. And I feel that's just such an intoxicating trait in the NFL, and one that just has so much potential. And it really feels like a lot of the questions around, oh my goodness, look at the things he processes without even thinking about it, is something that just got people excited. And if I'm the Jets, I ride or die on that. You're going to need someone to really hit to be able to turn this stuff around. And I love that they shot for potential. So that was one of my main thoughts coming out of the draft. The other one that I just think is so exciting is Asante Samuel Jr., Patrick Surtain the second. What is going on? I was playing as Patrick Surtain in Madden 02 yesterday. How is it happening?
Yeah, I feel the same way as a Patriots fan, right? Asante Samuel played for the Patriots, saw him win Super Bowls with the Patriots. I definitely have a similar thought. Going back to your first take, yeah, the Jets, it was definitely a go-for pick, and you're not the first person to come on and kind of suggest that, okay, there may have been other guys who their measurables were better or their stats were better, but, Zach Wilson might have to be the guy for the Jets because of the reasons that you said, and especially in a division that it's now no longer the Patriots division. The Bills are a very good team, and it might be their division, but as far as the AFC East goes, this division is now wildly up for grabs, and if there is a window to take a step, the window is now, and I think that's what the Jets were after.
Amen. Well said.
I'll react to your second point. So Pat Surtain the second, Asante Samuel Jr., Darius Stills, West Virginia interior defensive lineman. His dad, Gary, played in the NFL for 9 years. Chris Rump II, his dad is the linebacker coach. Elijah Molden, his dad played in the NFL as a corner. And then Amari Rodgers, who went to Green Bay, his dad, T. Martin, won Tennessee.
86.
He was the quarterback for Tennessee when they won their first national championship in like 60 years in the early years. So there's plenty of pedigree in terms of dads being good at football in this draft.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge thing that I think you see it even more prevalently in the NBA in terms of like the shifting socioeconomic and makeup of like we're getting drafted and the like proliferation of like kids of athletes that is now everywhere. And I just think it's so cool and it's so fun and it's so fascinating. And like it just challenges so many of the different ways in which we define a path. And then I'm like, oh no, what if the like sports stop becoming like even a fake meritocracy and go to like a totally non-meritocracy because like having people who are in it is the only way to get in it, which obviously isn't a real concern, but it's just fascinating seeing the just overwhelming amount of pedigree that is slowly and surely increasing all over the place in sports right now.
Arch Manning coming to a big board draft near your 2024 draft. All right, thanks so much for coming on the fan line. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, y'all. Have a great one.
Been a long show. Let's get to some final thoughts. Syracuse football had a nice weekend. Andre Cisco, first pick in the third round. Trill Williams, he was expected to be a day 3 guy. Undrafted free agent, signs with the Saints. Good fit. But I think from a draft perspective, we were a little surprised he didn't go.
Yeah, and the third guy, Ifatu Melifonwu, long cornerback. I talked about Benjamin St. Juste, who's 6'3". I think Ifatu's 6'2". Long quarterback, loves playing zone.
Yeah.
Went to the Lions at 101, which awesome value. A lot of people thought he'd be a first-round pick. So at 101, that's crazy. Cisco fell to 65, which makes sense. And then Trill Williams undrafted is just kind of brutal.
It was.
I did not foresee that one.
Yeah, not a lot of people did. I think he's just a freak athlete, and he's
day 3 pick. Like I thought he was a lock for day 3. 6'2" slot corner, ridiculous. Played outside his freshman year, put on good tape, and could even play safety in the NFL. But apparently, no teams wanted to go for it. The Bills drafted DeMar Hamlin and Richard Wildgoose from Wisconsin, Pittsburgh and Wisconsin, respectively, who are both corners, safeties, could play slot. We thought that was the best opportunity for Trill in the 6th, 7th round, and it didn't happen. And they drafted 2 other guys not named Trill Williams, and we were depressed.
Before we go, Tate, how can we consume Boom or Bust content?
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter at Boom or Bust Draft. We're on YouTube, Boom or Bust Draft. We're on TikTok. Yeah, we're everywhere you get podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. We're also on Instagram. I think it's also Boom or Bust Draft. And then I don't think we have a Facebook. So if you're on Facebook and don't have any other social media platforms or podcast platforms, I'm sorry.
I have podcast platforms.
You got podcast platforms.
Yeah.
So yeah, check us out. Thanks for having me, Yoni.
Yeah,
this
for
is
sure.
Fun. If you guys ever want to talk draft, I'm always down. As you can see, I love talking about the draft and won't stop talking about the draft for another year. So yeah.
Appreciate it. 2022 big board already being started. Coming soon. Appreciate it so much. Thanks for all who came on the fan line. Go Pats, baby.